What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Mick here again with another video. Topic of today's video is going to be Bethesda, one of my favorite topics to talk about here on the channel. But Todd Howards has finally shown his face to the public. We're going to take a look at that whole interview and kind of pick apart the important details, stuff that he said relating to Elder Scrolls 6, which, by the way, is not a lot, Todd Howards. But nonetheless, we are going to look into all of that. If you are a fan of the channel, don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you are new here and you're a fan of game discussions, topics, things like that surrounding gaming, maybe think about sticking around. We'd love to have you on the channel. For a tiny channel like myself, I do appreciate all the support that I've been receiving, all the likes, all the comments, talking to you guys. It's all been a blast, so thank you very much. Other than that though, let's get straight into this video and find out what Todd Howards has to say. Okay, so this interview was on Kinda Funny Gamescast. Now, I've never heard of these guys, but I assume they're very popular. They do a video game podcast or something like that. They've got Todd Howards on and they're going to ask him some questions. I'll pick it apart and, kind of pause at the important areas and look at it. Let's not waste any more time, though, and get straight into it.
Season 2, we're writing Season 3. We had Oblivion Remastered the past year. All the Fallout 76 updates. We're working on Starfield content. And, of course, the big games we have coming in the future. Indiana Jones. So
I know we've literally just started, but I just wanted to point out there, Todd's kind of laying the foundations here for, cover against the Elder Scrolls 6 questions. He's listing off all this stuff that Bethesda have done over the past few years, kind of saying, look how much we've done. We've been working so hard. That's why that hasn't happened. Todd didn't even develop Indiana Jones. I just want to point that out. Like, this whole list is just him deflecting immediately, but we're going to get into it deeper into the video.
I have Discord on my work computer here at the office. It's the only thing I've ever used it for. So every time I boot my computer, Discord comes up and I'm like, I don't think I'm on Kinda Funny. And then
you can uninstall. Yeah, you haven't been on since April 29th, 2024.
Like, well, now I have a reason.
Well, you see, usually when I call people on the show, I just call them on their phone. So I'll just start doing that for you. You can
do that. You have mine.
I know. Well, I don't want to bug you all the time.
Use it, so I appreciate you.
Well, that's the thing. Once the number's given out, you understand it's a red light. Yeah, here we go. It's go time. Anytime you get a phone call from me in the middle of the day, you're going to be live on the show. But yeah, I have so many questions to ask you on the record, I guess, which is why it makes more sense for you to return. Again, you ushered in Kinda Funny Gamescast as a daily show on April 29th, 2024. I can't thank you enough for that. We have been steamrolling ever since with daily content, the #1 and #2 video game daily podcast in the world, all because of you, Todd Howards. But I digress.
I think you had something to do with it.
Of course, let's get to the topic of the show. Todd. It's Todd Howards. So many places to start, Todd. And I think the only logical place to start is, of course, Starfield. I know Elder Scrolls 6, when the Fallout Remastered rumors, all this. We'll get to that. All right, we'll get to that, everybody watching live and watching later. When you get a show, you're allowed to ask about your favorite game. Because I was offended this morning when I went to the No Sodium Starfield subreddit, which I go to frequently, if not daily. I'm there lurking and looking. Agent Shane said, of course, watch him talk about, Todd, what the hell is going on with Starfield? Because even before I let you answer, I have never had a more wackadoo preview than what you all let me do for Starfield's upcoming content, where you let me go to a thing with a bunch of other creators and we were told you're not allowed to report on this or talk about this, but you're allowed to say you saw it. And so now for like the last 4 months, every so often one of them says that, people flip out thinking it's Starfield 2.0 and what's going on? Where are we? What's going on with Starfield?
No, first of all, thanks for the Reddit comment there. I'm a big Redditor, so I do read Reddit a lot. It's my sort of favorite.
I'm a big Redditor. It's hilarious. Todd Howards is one of the most unintentionally funny people I've ever seen in my life. He's hilarious.
The end of last year, too, is particularly, for us, we sort of period of time where we focus on IPs or franchises, and Fallout really obviously dominated the fall and a little bit early this year. You've seen it. And I can tell everybody we're going to be talking about it, really soon. We're moving into a phase where we're ready to talk about Starfield.
Okay.
And really show that in the right way and what's coming to the game. We've been doing a lot of work that we like a lot. It is not Starfield 2.0. I've seen some of that. So I don't, for expectation setting, I think it's the kind of thing where if you love Starfield, we think you're going to love this. It's, updates and things that, change the game in the right way and what's coming to the game. We've been doing a lot of work that we like a lot. It is not Starfield 2.0. You know, I've seen some of that, so I don't, you know, for expectation setting, I think it's the kind of thing where if you love Starfield, we think you're going to love this. It's, you know, updates and things that, you know, change the game, you know, not in an isolated way, but sort of, you know, meta,
Sure.
using outer space and things in ways that we haven't. But look, if Starfield's something that, you know, didn't connect with you right away, or you bounced off it or found it boring in places, I don't think this is going to change that fundamentally. But if you're someone who loves Starfield, like you, Greg,
Yeah.
we think it's really, really, we're really happy with it. We like it a lot.
So that's Todd talking about the recent upcoming Starfield update. People were calling it Starfield 2.0. He's quickly shut down those rumors, and you can tell by the way he's talking and what people expect and Bethesda's track history that this is going to be a minor update at best. There might be some kind of free roam travel with the planets involved there that people were speculating, but like bottom line is this is not going to bring in the player count that people think. I mean, he's kind of already accepted that by the way he's talking. He's more reserved. You know, he does accept that people found Starfield boring, and you can just see by the player count there's way more people playing Skyrim, and that came out in 2011. So for Starfield, this is not great news.
And we just, you know, we have such a big audience on the game. It's really like a Game Pass hours beast in terms of Starfield for us. And
I highly doubt that for some weird reason, but if you're using Game Pass as a metric for success, you are cooked.
And we're really, really, you know, happy with the results, and our audience is great.
Is that imminent? You're preparing, you're getting ready to talk. How close to talking are we?
It's soonish. It
Okay.
is soonish. I don't want to spoil the day, but it's coming soon. Yeah.
And then I guess the next one for you to dodge is, do you feel like, is this going to put a bow on Starfield for you, for the team to then move on to all the other projects you're working on?
You know, look, we do have a lot of projects, and so I think balancing that with the size of our studio, we do have a lot of development partners also, but still we're relatively small, just over 500 people across everything.
Super tiny.
But that's the trick. That's the trick. Well, across Fallout,
I know.
and Starfield and the Elder Scrolls work. I think balancing that, you know, what's important for a period of time. That's kind of a trick that we find ourselves in a lot.
Yeah, I'm glad Todd's finally admitted to this. Bethesda are the king of just doing stuff randomly. Like, there's updates for Fallout 4 that just haven't been looked at for years. We're still waiting on the Elder Scrolls 6, and then Todd's making a TV show and updating Starfield. It really is crazy over there.
But no, we're doing more Starfield stuff coming up. We've been laying that out, and so it's something we see continuing, you know, for a while. We also have all the creators. They're doing amazing stuff in the game. So I think working with them also kind of keeps really good content coming into the game, and we're going to be a part of that as well.
Yeah, I think that's something that, you know, for me is, as a Starfield sicko, as I keep saying, so impressive. As I think, as much as I have loved Fallout in the past, I was always on consoles. So the modding community, the creation community wasn't my thing for a long time. I know eventually, obviously, it came to consoles. But with Starfield having it out the gate so quickly, I've been shocked to see how much that has kept the game alive for me, of dropping in for these big editions, whether they be from Bethesda proper or whether they be from the community. And even going as far as what, it was 2 months ago, last month? I think it was last month, January, right? Time's a flat circle and a blur right now, where they did StarCon. Did you see this? Where they did like a little Starfield digital convention. It was on Zoom all day. People came together to talk about their creations and what they were doing and where they were going. I loved it. I had such a great time.
Yeah, look, our community there is amazing. Our creators and modders who have been with us for so long, we love it. And I honestly still think it's early days for us. We're always trying to find new ways to support that community. I think the content is, you know, absolutely incredible, but we have a ways to go in terms of making it easier for them, putting it in front of everybody, saying, hey, try this out. You know, with our older games and creations of Fallout 4, you know, we still have issues when we update the game. It breaks mods, and so we see all that. So we still feel like, even though we've been doing this type of thing for several decades, that we're still early in what that looks like for everybody.
I mean, Todd's obviously touched on it there, and he's grateful from the modding community in regards to Starfield. But if we look at the entirety of Bethesda titles like Skyrim and Fallout, the modding community has kept these sales coming and kept these games alive, and they're really giving Bethesda a cushion to sit on when it comes to these long waits between releases. When it comes down to it, though, the modding community is a big thing for Bethesda, and it really does keep them guys going.
So take me from that last statement to the general future of Bethesda games, right? You know, you make this game, you make this type of game, you make this thing. Do you see that changing? I think the way you listen to this show, the way we talk about Bethesda games, open world RPGs in general, expanded out for the video game world, you hear so much about, well, the Bethesda engine, and then me talking about like, yo, Bethesda makes Bethesda games, and so it's silly for us to show up and think you're going to get something different. But as we see the success of Baldur's Gate 3 and all the choices and consequences there, as we see people continue to push it and get nerdy with it, I think of the Outer Worlds 2 and the way they did perks and stuff like this. Like, do you guys batten down the hatches and you're committed to your engine and this is what we're making and this is how it's going to be? Or are you letting things come in, influence, and do you see that changing as everything evolves?
I mean, I think if you look at our games, we've sort of always evolved. We do have a certain style that we like and our fans like that we want to get better and better at. I think in some ways, in many ways, Fallout 76 and Starfield are a little bit of a creative detour from kind of that classic Elder Scrolls Fallout, a Skyrim or a Fallout 3 or a Fallout 4, Oblivion, where you're exploring a world in a certain way. And, as we come back to Elder Scrolls 6 that we're doing now, we're coming back to that kind of classic style that we've missed, that we know really, really well. You talked about, tech and things like that. We spent the last, several years bringing Creation Engine 2, which powers Starfield, up to Creation Engine 3, that's going to power Elder Scrolls 6 and beyond.
So straight from Todd's mouth there, Elder Scrolls 6 will be on the Creation Engine 3, whatever that looks like. We'll have to just wait and see, maybe 10, 15 years when Elder Scrolls finally drops. This is good to hear, a brand new update on the engine, and the engine is good. I do enjoy it. I mean, there was a lot of bugs in previous titles, but that just became a quirk of the game. A lot of people started to enjoy those bugs. But it is good to hear that this will be on Creation Engine 3. But again, this is just a long development. At the time that Creation Engine 3 was implemented, you'd have to wonder what stage of development these guys were really in, and I don't see this game releasing anytime soon. But obviously Todd's going to have more to talk about that in the video.
New stuff that we're doing, but also kind of world systems loading, how we bring things into the world, how we get that detail close to the camera kind of immediately. And so, but it's still, we have a style of game that we really, really like that I think people expect from us.
Sure.
And there's a lot of innovation to be done there still, so that when you step into a world, you feel like you're experiencing it really for the first time, a game like that.
I completely agree with Todd here. I mean, when it comes to Bethesda titles and their RPGs, we do expect something because we've had them time and time again. And it's better just to keep that, formula that's worked in the past, that everybody's enjoyed in the past. And as he said, with innovation, yes, just take that formula and work on it and build on it.
And I think, we're happy with where it's headed right now. That's what I could say.
Okay.
Yeah, where it's headed is going to be next-gen consoles, because Todd is specifically going to be stalling the game for that reason.
Okay. In that, I mean, you brought it up. You said the Elder Scrolls 6. So, I mean, like, how is that going? Because it's been, let me check my calendar, 7 years.
Since the announcement?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think everybody knows that why we announced it that way then. It's not my preference. My preference is always you hear nothing, and then one day the game is out. Like, there's an announcement and the game is out. Like, that's my perfect scenario. That can't always be the case. And at that time, we wanted to signal to people, because it's the obvious question. When you announce a 76, are you still going to be doing single player games? So you announce a Starfield. The next question is, well, what about Elder Scrolls 6? So that really was... and even then, look, we know where the game is set. We know some things we're doing. Hey, this is going to be happening. And so, look, like I said, it's going well. We're happy with it. It's going to be a while yet. We're happy with where we pushed the technology and how the game is coming together. We're able to play it. We're about to pass a big milestone.
Whoa, what did he just say? Did he just say the game is in a playable state? It's playable? Is that what he meant by that? Or what are we talking about? Because that's a huge piece of news.
Internally, the majority of the studio is on the game, and some of our partners. So, it's weird. I'm not here to sell anything or talk. Really, it's really a catch-up conversation. Yeah. So I feel bad because people want information. I appreciate that, but I'm much more, I like to think long-term about when you really see the game and hear about it, focusing on that moment and kind of, not today or the, the time in between.
Okay, so it's clear from this segment that Todd's getting kind of annoyed with Kinda Funny here. These Elder Scrolls 6 questions are just not for him. He doesn't want to answer, he doesn't want to give away too much. But Todd said this before when he talks about that moment that gamers feel on release and experiencing a new title. He said this time and time again, and I believe him. It is clear that Todd really does care about that moment that gamers experience when it comes to these titles like the Elder Scrolls 6. And he does want to kind of harness that moment, that release, that, small window between reveal and release. He does care about that moment. So he's obviously trying to, stop with these questions because he's getting annoyed. But we can't really fault him too much because it's clear that he has our interests in mind.
Well, I assure you, I doubt very few people showed up to the Kinda Funny Games cast expecting you to show footage today. So don't worry, you're in a safe spot.
You just did. There you go. That was it.
That talk to me a little inside the studio game dev stuff, jumping off of the Elder Scrolls 6, but not obviously giving me stuff you're not going to give me. You talk about the majority of the studio being on it, right? So that's 250 plus people who are working on that. How do you keep that straight? You know what I mean? How do you, as a studio, as a team, as multiple teams, as multiple project managers, bosses, organize something of that magnitude?
Oh, yeah, it's tricky, but we do have production directors on every project and creative directors. I tend to spend most of my time in the new things. So like most of my time is on Elder Scrolls 6.
Sure.
And then, the other projects, we have great leaders sort of across the studio. You think about Elder Scrolls, the majority of the folks who made Skyrim are actually still here. And the studio is an amazing place where we have people that have been here decades, but we also have a lot of new talent that's coming to the studio with skills they've picked up at other studios, or they've grew up as fans of our games and now they're professionals. So I think the studio makeup is in a really great spot. But yeah, it's a juggling act. Fallout 76 is so popular.
Yeah.
We have another big season coming out. It's like our 65th or 66th update to that game.
I did my homework. 66. Don't worry, of course. Season 24 in the backwoods coming out March 3rd. I'm prepped. I'm ready.
With Bigfoot. There you go. All right, we'll plug that.
We'll get there.
But look, when you have a big live service game in that way, it does take a lot of time and headspace from the studio, but great team on that, great partners on that. So that's in a good spot. Yeah, it's tricky, but we've gotten better at it over the years and overlapping our projects and bringing, key folks onto projects that really need them at the right time.
This is really important when it comes to studios like Bethesda, maintaining that core studio, those guys that have been around for decades, making sure they're there and they're still working on this sequel. Studios that have made sequels in the past, or even just regular games compared to what they used to, have always started to, go downhill, started to fail. I mean, we've seen it with Obsidian. Obsidian haven't made a good game in years. And that's just, due to the fact that core development team, that core team that used to work there, just don't work there anymore. And, the studio isn't what it used to be. So Bethesda keeping these guys on, keeping them working, that's definitely a good sign for the Elder Scrolls 6.
You jump off of there, that 76 conversation. Something I think that's interesting since we last talked, right? And obviously we've all been through the journey of Bethesda in general. Like you said, you announced 76, but you also announced Elder Scrolls 6. So you say, we're still doing what we know. Now that we're so far on the 76 train, and obviously we've been up, down, around curves all through, blah, blah. Does the studio feel like, hey, this is such a great addition to the portfolio? Because I think about when, the jumping platform allegiances here, Naughty Dog pulled the plug on the Last of Us multiplayer thing. And their statement was like, hey, we started down this train of making a multiplayer game when we realized it was going to take us so far away from making the single player games we're known for. It seems like for all the bumps along the way, you guys have found a way to do that, but maintain and still make the individual.
I don't want to put anybody down or talk trash on this kind of funny guy, but that's a bit of a softball question. I mean, Bethesda are the most well-known people for wasting time and not putting out single-player titles. Naughty Dog are doing the right thing and pulling that multiplayer because they need time. They need developers to work on these single-player releases because they know customers expect these games in a reasonable time frame. When it comes to Bethesda, these guys are well-renowned for not putting out single-player titles, and if you want to talk about, time wasted in side projects. Todd's the master of that. I mean, the Fallout 76, Elder Scrolls Online, yes, they have communities and fans, but it's not even 1% of the single player title fans that like Elder Scrolls and Fallout. So when we're looking at people with side projects and you're talking about this time wasted and how the company manages all this, you know, in actual fact, they don't manage this well, because we haven't seen a single player title from Bethesda other than Starfield in nearly a decade. So, you know, this kind of question is just crazy to me.
The solo stuff make this thing and try to satisfy two very different audiences.
Yeah, look, it was incredibly difficult. It was difficult to get it to launch, and it didn't launch great. And then it was even harder to sort of, you know, pull it out of that. And then when it starts getting really popular again, maintain it. We're really fortunate. Look, the community around that game is incredible. And, you know, there were so many people that wanted to play a game like that. Granted, not every Fallout fan, we realize that, given the history of it and the single player nature of it. But so many people wanted to play a game like that. They kind of, you know, stuck with us. And you know, in many respects, it's the game that we've done I'm the most proud of, because it's so hard to do and then maintain as a relevant game. And I think if you look across the industry, the amount of games like it that there have been or come and gone, and here's 76 still there, with big numbers and doing well and being relevant. And it's a lot of energy in the studio. Look, people love it. You know, the team on it, led by John Rush, they just do a fantastic job. And you see you know, I get to see the roadmap that's planned for the game, and it gets even better. So we love it. Our community loves it. And obviously, as you have these Fallout moments with the TV show, it gives us an avenue to be updating and adding new things. The Ghoul comes in to Burning Springs and et cetera. So just a vibrant community, and something where it's great to have that community touch point. Whereas when you're doing a single player game, you don't have it as much. You're kind of doing it outside the game. Obviously, we have mods and creations, but, you know, not quite the same as a game like Fallout 76.
Listen, Fallout 76 definitely not being one of the more popular Fallout games, given that multiplayer aspect. As you can see with the player count, it has spiked a lot with the TV show's popularity, like we've talked about before. But this is definitely not Bethesda's wheelhouse. We've seen this with the poor launch of 76, and also the long time it took to even get this thing online, or on track, so to speak. But in terms of the game itself, for me, I just did not enjoy it. I couldn't get into it. There was like some MMO aspects, but then it was like its own multiplayer thing that I just couldn't get around to enjoying. I tried playing it with my brother before, but the quests wouldn't track together. We had to do like quests, you know, twice, because it was only the leader who could track them and complete them for some of them. It just wasn't a real fun experience or easy to get a hang of. I understand there is a small community there, or a kind of small community that do enjoy the game, do stick with it, but for me personally, somebody who plays a lot of different video games, it just was not hitting for me, and I could not get into it. That being said, Fallout 76 is not everyone's cup of tea, and the community that do stick with it, they are very vocal about their enjoyment of the game. I just think more resources should be taken away from 76 and pushed towards the Elder Scrolls 6, just until that game launches, and then they can go back to updating it.
No, for sure. I think that's what's been so interesting. You know, I see Mr. Hawks, one of our kind of funny best friends, but also a Fallout 76 super fan who podcasts about it all the time. He's popping off in the super chats, talking in the regular chat about it, and like what makes that community so special compared to the special community I'm in of Starfield, and wanting to go do the creations, but making it that, hey, we're all coming together to do this, or what did you find and how did you go off and chase that, and have it be more on that same level and on that same vibe, which I think is interesting. I think, you know, from my side of it, and I've talked about this obviously on a multitude of shows, but it's always so interesting. There was one snarky comment. They're like, oh, is there a Fallout 76 community? Well, and it's like, no, there is. And what I always find so fascinating about video game communities is you don't know it until you find it. It's that thing where you move the rock and you're like, oh my God, there's how many people over here playing.
I don't know if this guy realizes what he's saying, but he's basically telling Todd Howards that the community for Fallout 76 is hidden under a rock.
This game that I've heard about, but I didn't realize had a thing going on. And to see the way you and Bethesda have made these different games with their different communities, as a Starfield sicko, the people who think nobody plays Starfield, and I'm on this Reddit, I'm seeing the thing, I'm chasing the creations, I'm downloading everything, I'm preparing. Like, it's fascinating to me to see the different pockets.
This is brutal. This guy's literally telling Todd Howard to his face that his games are niche. The director of Bethesda is getting told his video games are niche after all these years.
Of how you've built that. And I think to double back to 76, that was something that was so interesting late last year when I went out to play the Burning Springs preview stuff and see that it really was Bethesda's answer to the criticism so many people had of Fallout Season 1 debuting and then there being no new thing, no new game, no new content, nothing really to jump into to sink your teeth in. And like, we reported on it for days, it felt like, of, well, Fallout, 76 has reached this milestone of players because of the show. They're all in the top 10 again on Steam because of the show, X, Y, and Z. And so to have the Ghoul come and be part of that, it was an interesting way to dovetail it without, having to have a brand new game ready to go for it. Was that an answer to that question of Season 1 when you really were like, oh man, everybody's rushing to play these games, but we don't have a brand new thing to do?
We had, well, first, with Season 1, we knew it would be popular. It was more popular than we even thought, but our goal was, let's make sure the games are ready, right? People are going to come to the games and, make sure they're ready. So updating Fallout 4, having new stuff in a 76. Fallout Shelter, the mobile game, still, I think the most played Fallout game more than all the other ones combined.
Outrageous.
Pretty sure. And so making sure those games had new stuff and were ready for players and in a good spot. And so you saw this big influx into 76 then, and people then staying around. So I think the show gives you this opportunity of people being curious and saying, I'm going to go play that, but the game has to be good and the game has to be ready. And fortunately, we were in a good spot. With Season 2, we just had more runway, right? We had more runway in terms of, hey, what does this look like for putting things from the show and the game, and the Ghoul was so popular. So we're just able to start, earlier. And, as we go into Season 3, we're sort of able to do the same thing where you're seeing sort of relevant things in Fallout 76 in particular, a little bit in the mobile games that you would then, see on TV that week. So, yeah.
Talk to me about that. Let's move over to Fallout TV. We just finished Fallout Season 2. Congratulations. What was that like, getting another bite of the apple, being able to come back to this with the cast, add people in like Macaulay Culkin? Like, again, how do you split your time of working on the games, but then also now there's a show going on in your worlds? Like, how was Season 2 for you different than Season 1? Start me there.
Yeah. Great questions. Look, when you do Season 1, I spend most of my time up front. What's the story we're going to tell? What are the scripts? What's the structure of this? Where's it going to go? How does it fit into the world of Fallout? And I cannot say enough. I've said this time and time again. Jonah Nolan, the whole cast and crew, people over at Kilter and Amazon, just have much passion they have poured into this and wanting to get it right. And a number of us here are involved on the art side, design side, and other things to hey, let's make sure this fits in the world. It looks the way it should in terms of the games and everything. Because we want it to be one kind of holistic Fallout universe.
Yeah.
And I would say Season 1, you just don't know. It's entertainment. You're making a Fallout show. There's a lot of opinions on Fallout, obviously, because it's a franchise that jumps between, harsh drama, post-apocalyptic to B-movie, dark comedy, and it's a mashup of things. And so finding that tone that's going to work right in a linear way, and also for people that have never played the games, we felt really good about Season 1, but you don't know.
Sure.
And to have it resonate the way it did, you come in, you sense everybody coming into Season 2 with a lot of confidence. Okay, this works. We can kind of step on the gas in some areas. And the writers really wanted to go to New Vegas. They actually wanted to go there in the early pitches of Season 1. And I said, I would save that. That's such an iconic thing for Fallout. It's better to push the base and then we can go to New Vegas. And I thought they did a really good job taking it there because it's tricky. You have an iconic area, a beloved game, particularly storylines that end different ways and really strong characters. And there's a million ways to fuck that up. And so it can be a bit of a minefield, right?
Sure.
And I thought they did a great job. We spent a lot of time saying let's not refute anything that happened in the games, but let's see if there's some areas that, the writers really want to push forward, and in particular, the use of House, who's just an incredible character. Like Justin Theroux just crushes it when he's on screen. You just want to see more and more and more scenes with him.
It's quite obvious to anybody watching that little segment there that Todd's obviously addressing the backlash when it came to the Fallout New Vegas segment of the TV show. When it comes to Fallout New Vegas and the games, a lot of people had issues with, the renditions of Caesar's Legion, the NCR, some of the choices that the character made in the game not being evident in the TV show. But you can tell Todd's obviously mildly addressing that here, as he knew it was a big outcry with people. I mean, there were social media posts, YouTube videos all made about this very issue. So Todd's obviously trying to downplay why that happened and the reasons for it in this little segment here.
So I think they did a fabulous job, and we, you do kind of worry about sophomore slump. You see it in some other things that you all love in entertainment, and fortunately, people loved it, and we're on to season 3.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I've seen this reported, but I can't find a source. Is it true season 3 is starting to film in May, or is that just scuttlebutt?
The plan is to start this summer.
Okay.
I don't know the exact date, but it's being written now. And, Jonah and crew, we like to move fast. So we want to get these, yeah.
It's the antithesis of the Fallout games, right? Move fast, huh?
I know that's just a little joke by kind of funny there, but I'm glad to see somebody say that to Todd's face finally.
Thanks, man. Good one.
I'll get there. Thank you. Correct. No problem. Thank you. Yeah. You're like, interview over. Close Discord. Uninstall. Never come back.
Savage.
Oh, Todd did not like that one. You could just tell by the look on his face. He hated that. Oh, jeez.
No. So talk to me a little bit about that. And I was wondering, is it interesting telling a story this way? Obviously, Fallout 76 and the updates, there's small updates, small story pieces, yada, yada. But for your career in video games, you're putting out these gigantic things that people play for years and are always finding new things, blah, blah, blah. I was fascinated, I guess, watching Fallout Season 2 and even ending Fallout Season 2 and seeing so many people, upset might not be the right term, but criticizing, I guess, well, like, what was the point of the super mutant Ron Perlman? What about this? What, blah. And I was like, well, this is an ongoing episodic thing where they want to come back to it. And I was interested, I think it was over on Yahoo, right? Yeah, Yahoo. Mick over at Yahoo interviewed co-creator Geneva over there. And she was talking about Geneva was talking about what's going on with season 3 and where they're going, and talking about like something that we're really excited to delve into as a show next season is Vegas. Historically in the games, it was a real hub of civilization. And the fact that we're not leaving New Vegas, right? We introduced New Vegas. We said, hey, it is as season 1 was, and I've talked to you both on the air and off the air about this, of like season 1, when they show you the med packs, I'm like, this is from the game. That's an asset from the game, but it's in real life. To go to Vegas and have it be the Strip and immediately see the Kings and then walk in and see the casinos and the hub. And I was like, oh, this is awesome. To see us that wasn't, as you were talking about, a glancing punch. We're there. Vegas is important. And now we're going to pick up the story, it seems, for season 3, still have us going on in there. Like, were you surprised that people weren't seeing a longer term plan based on how you've done long-term storytelling?
No, I think it's understandable that you want everything to pay off immediately when you watch stuff.
Sure.
It does, given the scope of Fallout, we sort of decided, like, hey, let's make sure we treat each element so it isn't just as, a glancing blow or whatever. Like, you could have had a Deathclaw appear in season 1, but you probably wouldn't have the time or, to treat it the way it should be. So, hey, Deathclaws, let's really make them important to season 2. And then so those kind of key elements, we're picking our places, and like, hey, when do you do super mutants? Like, hey, you might have a hint of it here, and then we're gonna do more of it later. Right. And then geography. I think the best thing about the show versus what we do in a game is, I think geography is like the key element to, what we do with Fallout. When you say, hey, there's a new Fallout, like, where is it set? Is like the first question. So, treat the show that way. Hey, each season, where is it set? And so season 3 is going to take us on a journey to some new places that you've never seen in the Fallout universe. While still, because we're, it's a long story, going back to the vault, going back to Vegas some, and so forth. But the one thing I've learned with TV and working with Jonah and Geneva and the folks is you can take your time not in a way because you're trying to draw it out, because there's so much goodness there. You don't need to rush through some of these character moments. You can take your time and make sure they pay off the way that you really, really want them to. But we've discussed, hey, what's going to happen in season 3? How does the whole thing end? And even we don't know, okay, well, how many episodes does it take to get there? You kind of have to write, you have to shoot, you have to edit, and then some things kind of move around, but you still have that, like, okay, we're going here with these characters. And it's obviously it's very, very character driven. I think we have 3 really, really strong characters that often make you question, like, hey, would I do that? What would I do in that situation? And following their journeys. Yeah.
Todd's obviously talking about the TV show there and his work on that. I did eventually get round to watching both seasons of the Fallout show. Now, I really did enjoy the first season. I thought it was good. I thought, there kind of was all that back and forth between the different characters, but how they all linked up in their journeys, I thought it was really well done. But season 2 for me just was okay. I didn't think it was as good as the first one, for sure. I mean, when it came to season 2, it almost felt like it was setting everything up for season 3. It was just a massive long setup, and there was a lot of time fillers in there. I think it was good to see New Vegas and look back on all the old landmarks, all the old POIs that we've seen in the games. I thought that was fantastic. But in terms of a TV show and the series itself, it just could have been a lot better. There could have been a lot more done, especially with the writing side of things. So I did enjoy the show. I do think it's a good TV show. I think they're doing well when it comes to games making TV shows. I mean, we've seen it with the likes of Halo. Like, they always just do really bad. Like Resident Evil, Halo, these big major games that decide to go into TV and film always seem to flop, and I think Fallout's doing really well, when it comes down to that.
In your head / when you have these conversations with them, this is something we discussed on our spoiler cast for Fallout Season 2. Like, is there an end in mind for the show, or do you think it could just, and maybe there's an end in mind for Lucy's story, but you could see it going on and on and on?
There's an end in mind for these characters.
Okay.
Yeah. And this, we'll call it like this story.
Yeah.
There is an end in mind. Yes.
Okay. How many seasons is that? No, I'm kidding. You're not gonna tell me. I know.
I don't know. I personally don't like ones that overstay their welcome.
For sure.
I'll say that.
No, that's a great one. That's a great point. That's what I would much rather. That's what I always want. I want to be left wanting more. I don't want it to end and be like, oh man, well, seasons 9 and 10 were garbage, but at least 11 ended happily.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the double-edged sword of having an extremely popular show. People want it to go on forever, but then sometimes they can lose their magic.
The Walking Dead, and we all know it.
Sure.
So we'll see.
When you're talking about, what you're learning from telling the stories here and letting things grow or slow down and, let it germinate, I guess, is that doing reverberations into Elder Scrolls 6, the other Fallout projects you've talked about at length, saying that we have many Fallout projects? Is it changing the way you tell stories at Bethesda, I guess?
No, I don't think so. It's more on the game side. They've always kind of been long, meaning we see how much people play the games. Skyrim could be our most played game 15 years later, right? And so people play these games for a really long time. They might put it down and come back to it. And so I still, I think we want stories or sort of main quests that you feel like you, in quotes, finished the game. You finished like the main thing the game was, the world's wanting you to do.
Yeah.
In kind of a 20 to 30 hour spot. Like that's kind of what we designed for. It often goes longer, but that's like our intent.
Yeah.
But then there's this whole world that you feel like in many ways is limitless, either through, quests that we have or content that's coming. And so we have over time, you could see it in our games, looked at more game systems that continue to reward you. That gets, the longer you throw the stone out there, if you say, hey, someone's going to play this for 1,000 hours or 2,000 hours, which we see, making that rewarding when you get way out there, it's still very hard.
Yeah, I would say it's nearly impossible. I can't imagine sitting down and making a game and you're trying to make it great for the review period that people are going to go to, the normal in quotes, 20, 50, 60 hours somebody puts into it. But then, yes, the 2,000 hours somebody's going to go do. That seems like that would just be
that often ends up Sorry, often
No,
ends
please.
up in like a character grind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what's coming in these Fallout games, this Fallout world. All right. But I'll do that after, of course, I remind you that you can pick up a Kind of Funny membership. What's Todd playing right now? Any new games? What are you playing, Todd Howard? Oh, you're muted. You muted yourself. What happened?
What am I playing?
There it is. Nice, buddy.
Actually, I'm playing Drop Duchy. Have you guys played this game?
I have played Drop Duchy. Yeah.
And like seduced me with like a little video in terms of like that kind of looks like Carcassonne mixed with Tetris mixed with other stuff I like. So it's a great, really creative, great game. So I'm really enjoying that. And College Football 26. I play competitively online. That's a high stress game, but I do enjoy it.
How good are you? You're playing competitively online. Are you like really good at it?
I'm pretty good. Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I'm in like whatever the Heisman ranking category of road to the national college football playoffs. So
are you
I'm a big Notre Dame fan, and since they got screwed out of the playoffs, I am on my video game Notre Dame revenge tour.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
And
they had the Notre Dame has Jeremiah Love, which is basically a video game cheat code in football. So this is the year. This is the year for me to be good at video game football. But really, if you haven't, check out Drop Duchy. It's really
Barrett threw it up there.
It's a really elegant, smart game.
It's very good. Yes, Drop Duchy, a very impressive game. Yeah, if you're an audio listener, you are dropping tiles like Tetris, but it is not shapes. Well, they are shapes, I guess, but no, you're building a city as you go and doing all these things. Plus, of course, everything has to have the roguelike mechanic of the cards being dropped in there as well as you go. But yeah, building out your town as the pieces fall. It's an amazing piece.
It's great.
I want to say
I would buy a board game of this.
I don't want to speak out of turn. I want to say it launched in early access and then got a lot of updates, but it might have launched full bore and then keeps getting updates. Where as somebody who played it at launch, it keeps getting stuff. So yeah, no, Drop Duchy, a great game. Todd Howard approved, which I'm sure will be on their Steam page any second.
I'm happy to give him a quote. Like,
give it to him right now.
They Drop Duchy.
What a quote from Todd Howard.
An elegant masterclass in game design in a genre that you think you've seen everything in.
Dang.
How's that?
That was awesome. That is awesome. Put it on the back of the box. That doesn't exist.
It is, though. It's great.
Okay. You know what else is great? Fallout video games. Todd, when are we getting another one of those? Because you got it.
This guy just got Todd in such a good mood and got him all happy talking about games he likes. And now he's just going to piss him off with Fallout questions. Todd, this is like Todd's sleeper agent trigger word. If you ask him about upcoming Fallouts or Elder Scrolls, he immediately starts getting angry. Just watch.
The Oblivion remaster was a huge success.
Fallout 76 drops in a few weeks.
It drops on March.
This is killing me. Todd does not want to talk about this shit, bro.
March 3rd. Season 24 and the Backwoods. We're aware.
Look, for us, that's a new yeah.
I know.
When it comes to development, for us, that's a new thing.
Is there a chip on the shoulder of the Fallout 76 team about that? Is there a chip on the shoulder of the Fallout? Every time they see it, Fallout 5 win, Fallout 1, and they're like, we are on update 66 of Fallout 76. Go give it a shot.
I wouldn't say a chip. We just want people to recognize how much work we're doing on Fallout that we're putting out.
That's fair.
Many times a year. Just we're really proud of it, and there's a great audience there. So, but it's understandable when these big franchises people love, whether it's Elder Scrolls, Fallout in particular, and that people want brand new experiences. We 1,000% get it, and let's just say, look, we're working on stuff. There's a time to announce that and talk about it, but we have a lot of irons in the fire right now on all of that.
Yeah, give me that update. Last time you were here, you were very cryptic. Said, we have multiple Fallout projects at work for multiple. Give me a number. How many numbers we got? Fallout 5, of course, that's happening.
Multiple. Yeah, the multiple is still the number. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But the Oblivion, surprise remaster launch, that was a big hit, right?
It was huge, actually.
People love that. That seems like a great thing to do with all sorts of Fallout games.
Yeah, I would say I'm softened on the whole remaster thing. There was a lot of conversation about, hey, should we remaster some of our games? You look at your catalog, you say, what's the right thing to do? We felt Oblivion was the right one. I am this is only for like the stuff we've made here that I've made.
Sure.
I'm I'm sort of anti-remake. I respect the other ones out there, but I think part of the age of a game is part of it's part of what it is, like its personality and what it represented when it came out. And so as we approached Oblivion, I definitely wanted it to be a remaster, but kind of the absolute best version of that you can imagine. And so the original game, was important to us that the original game was running. It was like, okay, well, imagine you had patched that game many, many, many times for like many years. You had patched it. What would you have done? And so we sort of took that approach with sprinting and some other things. And then graphically, let's just make it look modern, but still in the style it was, right? So we're not gonna redesign the armor to be something new in the Elder Scrolls. It's like that version of it looking the way you kind of remember, but up-res.
You know, this is such a weird thing for Todd to bring up here. If he hadn't have mentioned armor, I wouldn't have remembered this, but he's talking about like keeping everything the same and just high-resing it. I distinctly remember watching a video back when the game came out. It was some like woke gaming content creator that was complaining about the armor differences between the original and the remaster. I mean, that just goes directly against what Todd says. I'm actually going to pull the clip up now.
Depending on whether you played a male or female character. Some really notable differences can be seen in things like the iron armor, the amber armor set, the chainmail armor, the pit armors and stuff worn in the arena, and several others that you'll notice too.
You know, I'm not too bothered about those changes or anything like that, but it's just funny that Todd Howards goes and directly says that the Oblivion remaster are not going to redesign anything, they're just going to upscale it basically. I mean, this is just a direct false statement, and I understand that Bethesda didn't directly develop this game, but I don't know why he's saying that here. That's just strange.
So, I mean, that was our approach to that game, and fortunately, it was, it was really, bigger than we imagined. Another thing, I mentioned Fallout Season 2, but another thing where the sort of dartboard of outcomes, when you're touching a kind of, game with the legacy of like Oblivion, most of the outcomes in the dartboard are bad, right? You can mess with what it was for people. And so we talked about that, like, hey, here's the sliver that we need to hit that kind of, not just acknowledges the legacy, but in many ways enhances it. And so really proud of the work everyone did on it. And so we're very happy with it. And, clearly given the success of that remaster, we think about others, but we'll see what happens.
Fair enough. I'll give it to you. I'll let that go. Fine.
All right.
Maybe I'll play a Fallout one day. Maybe Ben will be 20. He'll be 20 years old when he plays it. Let's move on then.
I didn't know about this kind of funny guy until this video, but I'm definitely subscribing to him after this. Like the way the way he's just throwing these digs at Todd is hilarious, man. I don't even know if he realizes he's doing it, but he's funny, man.
Since you're not going to confirm anything about my Fallout games or remasters and how they can just shadow drop at any time and for the rest of time, every time
I do like shadow drops. I will say that.
I know you do.
That is my preferred method. And so anything said before a shadow drop or that moment, I don't know if I like the phrase shadow drop, before that moment where you learn about it, anything beforehand or leaks or everything, it just takes away from that moment. And I think that moment is really, really special.
I don't want to keep pausing here every frame, but I gotta say, I really do agree with Todd here. When that Oblivion remaster had this trailer and then the launch immediately after the trailer, for myself as a gamer, that feeling was like really awesome, man. I loved having that excitement, that like shock that the game was there. We didn't hear much about it. I mean, Twitter had some leaks leading up to it, but it was all rumor and speculation. And even before that, in the longer history, we really didn't know anything about this, despite a couple people that were talking about it. But that feeling alone, the moment that he's talking about there specifically, is a really cool feeling, and that's why I do agree with Todd when he does mention that.
And so that's what we try to focus on.
All right, for real, then let's stop and have a conversation about that, because I do want perspective on that. As you know, in terms of video game talkers, there's a hierarchy, right? There's Jeff Keighley, and then there's me. And so I get inside information all the time. And one of those dice conversations you and I were having, you were like, we're remastering Oblivion. It's going to be a shadow drop. We're just going to do this thing and it'll just be out and be great. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And then like 2 months later or whatever, however long, stuff started leaking or whatever. When you wake up and you look at your phone or your email and you see that first time, you're like, you're just like, motherfucker, or is it just like, well, did you think you were gonna make it to had you run the scenarios and you're like, there's like a 90% certainty at some point something's gonna leak, some asset gets uploaded, I can't be upset about it, or did you not see that coming and you were super mad?
Well, we've been through so many leaks. In the moment, you're always pissed off. But because it kind of, they ruin a moment that the team's been working on, that you want to be able to present what you're doing in the right way. And it's not to keep it secret. It's because you want to make that game, that moment special for the fans, special for the studio. And sometimes those leaks, they ruin it some, or they might misinterpret a detail that everybody kind of latches onto.
Interesting.
That being said, like that moment of sort of being annoyed with it goes by pretty fast, because I've also found historically, and this is true for other people, I point it out all the time. I don't think a leak has ever affected the success of a game. And there have been some really bad ones. But at the end of the day, I can't think of any that really affected the success of that game when it came out. So we sort of take it for what it is. You do your best. I try not to be draconian internally. Some places will really keep things under lock and key. We share really freely in the studio, so everybody gets to see everything. And there's a trust level, like our ability to share stuff even internally across our studio and the company and stuff, is our ability to share it is everybody's ability to keep it secret. So we've actually had very few internal ones, but given the complexity and the number of partners and everything involved, it's natural that you'll get some. And I think you just gotta kind of roll with it.
Okay, fair enough. Top of the show, you mentioned we're hot off of DICE. We're coming in. DICE was last week, obviously a humongous show. For people who don't know, for you, what is DICE? Obviously, it's the sciences. Everybody comes together in Vegas, and the idea is roundtables and learning and yada, yada, yada. But like, is that still what it is for you? What do you view as DICE being? Other than a great award show I host.
It is a great award show.
Thank you.
There's two things. There's like the personal side, like for me, what I get out of it. I've gone for a long time. I would say sort of the other studio heads or people I know, I see you there. A lot of the people I know are there, and I can just have casual conversations and dinners with and learn what they're doing and learn more and talk about what we're doing, meet with partners. And so that's just a really condensed sort of special time for me. The other part is the industry aspect of it. I'm on the board of directors of the Academy and have been for a while. And sort of, I think DICE and really the Academy of Interactive Arts and Sciences is really there to sort of elevate the conversation around game making, celebrate it, and the new people coming into the industry, sort of connect people. I think there's a lot of work to do there, right? DICE existed for a long time for the conference and for the awards. And one of the things we're talking a lot about is, there's so many people, game developers, depending what company you're in, you're a part of the Academy and they don't know it. And I think there's more that the Academy can do for game developers to elevate what they're doing, elevate the conversation and all of that. It's also in Europe and other places. So if you look at, the other academies in entertainment and what they do across those things, I think, that's the role it fulfills. And DICE is obviously a big part of that.
During the awards ceremony, of course, the awards are brought out on stage by AIAS scholars. And then also this year we had a big table for them to sit at and have all this other stuff with the other people that are there. For you, I'm not saying you're in the twilight of your career, but you've been doing this a long time, right? And you are Todd Howard. Like you're the top of the mountain in so many different respects, right? When you look at them, what are you telling them as the industry wrestles with layoffs, AI, what's going on as people consolidate into these things, and then it's all shareholders and this, that. Like, it seems like obviously you listen to this show. I know you listen to Games Daily occasionally. Like, it's a lot of bad news a lot of times, and I, as a fan, get bummed out by that. But I can't imagine I'm leaving college, I'm starting on my journey to be a game dev and seeing all this.
Yeah, look, it's a great question. And I listened to the show yesterday and I thought you guys had a pretty interesting conversation about it. And you ended up kind of where my head was too, which is you see that in our industry and people coming out are kind of worried. They read about it. Am I gonna? And I say to them, you should absolutely do it. If you're a new person, you have more opportunities to make a game and get it out there than anyone's ever had. And if you look at the level of creativity, like step away from, you know, economics or big economics or and look at the games that are coming out and look at the creativity in them and the audiences they are finding. Look at the Game of the Year nominees at DICE. I like that list is incredible, and there could have been more. So if I look at what's coming out, what people are talking about, or what they're playing, and I look at the industry, I'm like, this is incredible.
You know, I do poke fun at Bethesda and Todd Howard, you know, from time to time, but you gotta admit, he does love gaming and he is really immersed in the gaming industry. I mean, this guy is definitely a fan of games and he loves games, and this is what like AAA developers are missing nowadays. You know, we're getting these titles being pushed out and pumped that just have no love or direction in them whatsoever, but some of them just feel lifeless to play. And if you're having somebody like Todd Howard at the helm, you know, the jokes we make and all that, it really is nice to see somebody like him really at the top of Bethesda. I don't think there'd be anybody else leading that company with as much drive and love for gaming as this guy has, so you have to commend him in a way. I think that's why Bethesda RPG fans are so tired of not seeing the Elder Scrolls 6 or a Fallout 5 or any of these big titles that we used to have. Because we know they're so good and they're made by such talented people like Todd Howard, it's such a shame just to have to play everything else when these games are in development. We know the standard that Bethesda put out and we know how good they are, and we're just not getting games like that nowadays. I mean, a lot of people are just holding out for GTA 6 at this point because everything that's coming out has just been, you know, mediocre at best. Obviously, you have outliers like Expedition 33, Resident Evil 9, lots of good games out there, but the standard that we used to have is just not there anymore, and we can all see it.
But then, yes, behind the scenes, kind of those waves of like, well, what's it like for, you know, big development teams? You're in this a lot of question mark spots where, hey, what should a budget be on a game?
Yeah.
That's a big question mark. And what kind of audience are you going to find? Like, what are the chances that that makes any money? That's hard right now, and people are wrestling with that because so many people are playing games. Whereas you used to like think about, you know, all the games you would buy and click through, and then go to GameStop and trade them in or do whatever, and you were kind of like going through games. And now people, you know, you have the big games dominating the time. Or a game that you love, you spend a lot of time in. I say this as somebody kind of who, like, our games benefit from that, where people do spend a lot of time in them.
For sure.
But I kind of think wider across the industry. So I think the level of creativity and the stuff coming out, and I mentioned Drop Dutch, is it could be the best we've ever had. But then you have all those other things going on that I think people are working really, really hard to solve.
Okay. What came out this year in conversations about AI? Obviously, this is a hot button issue. I saw, you know, you got quoted by Eurogamer talking about it being a tool, right? It'll never replace people, but it's a tool that's here. Are you seeing other folks use it the same way or have that same opinion of it, or they think it's a fad, or where are we at with AI from your side?
Well, look, it's certainly not a fad. I think the AI answer now becomes ask me in 6 months, right? It changes so much what you're seeing out there. For us, we're being like incredibly cautious, kind of viewing it as a tool, like an analyst. Look at the data in our games. We're not using it to generate anything.
Sure.
I think there's such an element of artistic intention that is essential to what we do and others do. And if you look across things outside of AI, like sort of you know, go back 100, like this idea of craftsmen, I still think craftsmen and that handcrafted human intention is what makes things special.
Sure.
And that's where we want to be. But you can't ignore it in terms of it's coming, it's changing every few months. There's a new model. Particularly in the tech side with code or productivity or other things. And I'll just say we're looking at that stuff. We're not like fully ignoring it, because where it can help us sort of get better at some, big data tasks that just take us a lot of time that we just wish were done now.
Sure.
So we can move on to the creative stuff. That's kind of where our heads are. But I think it's still very, very early days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's been an interesting back and forth, and I feel like the conversation gets so lost because when you say AI now, people think Gen AI, and they think it's writing the quest, it's making the environment, it's doing the thing. Whereas I think I'd like to think, and maybe I'm naive and I'm not at studios, but it feels like the people I talk to are talking about what you're doing of, well, let's coalesce data. Let's do this thing that would take hours of boring, busy work through an Excel spreadsheet versus not generating and making the game. But then you do hear people wanting to make the game with it, and then you're like, I don't know what the hell's happening anymore.
Yeah, we just have so much data in our games and so much data that even we classically generate, with our own procedural systems or long-term play analysis and using those systems to like help us with that or validate some things that we're thinking, I think has a lot of use, today. But again, this is something that's changing really rapidly.
Sure.
And we'll see where it goes.
I can see AI being used in the actual development of a game by these companies, especially with RPGs. I can definitely see AI NPCs coming into the mix. NPCs that you talk to through your microphone that remember your tone of voice, and you can be sarcastic, you can make them laugh, you can threaten them, all that stuff in the RPG setting. I can see it happening for sure. And Bethesda are definitely going to have to fight temptation on actually using this stuff themselves.
The one last thing I want to hit on from DICE was Vince Zampella, of course, passed away tragically in December. They did a DICE tribute there. You spoke there. I wanted to read this passage from Stephen Totillo's Game File report on the tribute. Quote, Vince was the real deal. Longtime Bethesda game designer and leader Todd Howards said on stage at DICE, describing their 20-year friendship. Quote, I would always seek his advice with every game that I did or how to maneuver on all that is going on in the industry, end quote. Todd, I'm so sorry for your loss. What is it to you that made him your friend and then made him so special in this industry? Because this was something that I've had the blessing to work with Vince a handful of times in interviews or segments or things like that. And he was always such a great, personable, ask me about the family dude. And then to find out he's that way with everyone while also having his head on the shoulders for games this way. Like for you, what made him so special?
Yeah, thanks for asking. It's a tough subject.
Of course.
And Vince and I were about the same age. We met right after Allied Assault, that incredible E3 demo they did. And kind of we came up in the industry together. And as the industry got larger and more complex, his ability to maneuver it and my own ability to maneuver it. And he was sort of, if you think about his career of changing studios and publishers and being able to do the level of work with the level of change that he went through. And he was the same exact, that's what I told you, he was the same exact person. I said in the talk, I think they're going to put it online. It's Vince was the least full of shit person that you met. He would call it as he saw it. And he had no fear, right? His ability to kind of push through that. This is what the game needs. This is what the team needs. And I don't personally care what I have to do to make that happen. I don't care what I have to do to protect it. He was the real deal. And I mean, if you've been to DICE, or most people listening would never been to DICE, but you would see Vince there. A lot of people would see Vince there, and he's such people would gravitate toward him because he was the real deal. And just an incredible loss, for the industry. Obviously, the teams that he worked at Respawn, his family, his friends. He was just. I don't think there'll be another Vince Zampella, both as a person or with that kind of record of topping themselves, given everything that's changing around them. It's just impossibly hard. So yeah, he's a very, very, very special guy to many people.
Thank is interesting. You mentioned, you and Vince were the same age or about the same age and stuff like that. I feel like something that comes up a lot of times when I see you get interviewed and when I have a conversation with you on camera like this is the idea of where are you at in your career? Like I mentioned earlier, man, I'm not saying it's the twilight of your career, but you've been on the record as before. Like these games take a long time, so I don't know how many more I have in me. Like, how are you still viewing that right now in 2026?
I think maybe 4 or 5 years ago, it was because of the pandemic, I would think about it like, hey, what's my plan? What am I going to do? And now I don't know. I just don't think about it. I got to be honest. I'm too excited about the games that
you're like, I got games to make.
Coming.
I can't think about that.
Yeah, I think about the studio and the people here, and I just love it. Like you sit down and, was at lunch today with a bunch of folks brainstorming about the new game that we're doing, and you leave that, and I get so excited. I just want to play this game. I just want to work on it with these people, and I love it. I have done it for a very long time. What is it? Over 3 decades now. But it doesn't feel that way, honestly. And I think it's the greatest form of entertainment, creative kind of avenue mixed with technology. I love both of those things. And I just love working with people here, want to play these games and do it as long as I can.
Well, I think that's as good as place as any to end up there. It is the end of that video, a couple of minutes left. I mean, it is really good to see Todd Howards in an interview and people asking him those tough questions, but as we all know, we're not going to get much out of him. He does, as he says, value that moment right before a game comes out, so we're not going to get leaks from the man himself. But that was a really good interview. It's really interesting to hear him talk about things, especially past projects, and then obviously the TV show itself that he's been working on. I would have liked to have heard a little bit more about Elder Scrolls 6, but as you heard, it is in a playable state and they are getting close to the end. Now, my personal prediction is they are going to wait for the next gen consoles to roll out. I do think it's going to be a launch title with the next gen consoles, but I might be wrong there. I do think we're going to have to wait another year, maybe 2, for Elder Scrolls 6, but then I do think we're going to see it released within that time frame. I wish it would be sooner, but it's just not something we're likely to see, especially with the way he's been talking there. In terms of Fallout remasters, from what we gathered, Todd does like remasters. He said he doesn't like remakes, but he does like remasters, and he spoke on Oblivion's success, so that's something we're likely going to see from the Fallout space. I do think we're going to see Fallout 3 get remastered first, and I don't think it's going to be too long. I think it might be the end of this year, maybe November time, we might see a Fallout 3 remaster come out, and when we do, we know it's going to be in Todd Howards' favourite fashion, a shadow drop or close to a shadow drop. But as I said, it was good to hear the man talk, hear it from the head of Bethesda himself. We're just going to have to wait and see for more information on these up and coming RPG titles. Now, when it comes to Bethesda, all I care about is Elder Scrolls 6 right now. That's all I've been caring about for the past 5 years. I understand that they've been working on other things like the TV show, Fallout 76, blah 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 blah. The only thing I really care about and focus on is Elder Scrolls 6. Now, I might be a wee bit selfish when I'm talking about these guys taking their time, because there are, as I said, are other projects they're working on. I think when it comes down to it, they really do need to meet the majority of the fans here though, and start really trying to get to that end goal of release for this game, because it's been so long. And not only that, once we get this title, people are going to have to wait even longer for Fallout 5. It might even be as long as we've waited now, plus an extra 5-6 years. Bethesda, like we've talked about before on the channel, are very good at what they do, but when it comes to these time frames and releasing titles, it just isn't on par with the rest of the industry. But I am going to end it there for the video, boys. I didn't think I was going to watch the whole thing, but it really did get interesting, so I thought I would just watch the entirety of it, and like I said, it's good to hear Todd Howards speak. I am going to bounce though. Thanks very much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, I doubt you did, but if you did, thank you very much, and I will see you in the next one as always.